Title: Story 1. One clue, one killer. Once upon a time, there was a police officer named Detective Miller. He was known for being one of the best detectives in the city, and he had a knack for solving even the most difficult cases. One day, Detective Miller was called to the scene of a murder. The victim was a young woman who had been stabbed to death in her apartment. There were no witnesses to the crime, and the killer had left no clues behind. Detective Miller was determined to catch the killer. He interviewed the victim's family and friends, and he searched the apartment for any evidence that could help him solve the case. But he couldn't find anything. Then, Detective Miller had an idea. He remembered that the victim was a big fan of social media. He checked her social media accounts, and he found a clue that the killer had left behind. The victim had posted a photo of herself on social media the day before she was murdered. In the photo, she was wearing a new necklace. Detective Miller realized that the necklace could be a clue to the killer's identity. Detective Miller traced the necklace back to a jewelry store where it had been purchased. He spoke to the jeweler, and the jeweler told him that the necklace had been purchased by a man named John Smith. Detective Miller knew that John Smith was a common name, but he decided to follow up on the lead anyway. He checked the jewelry store's security cameras, and he was able to get a photo of the man who had purchased the necklace. Detective Miller showed the photo to the victim's family and friends, and they all identified the man as John Smith. Detective Miller also showed the photo to other police officers, and they were able to identify John Smith as a known criminal. Detective Miller obtained a warrant for John Smith's arrest. He and a team of police officers raided John Smith's apartment, and they found him hiding in the closet. The Receipt Killer. Detective Jones was a seasoned police officer, known for his quick wit and keen eye for detail. One day, he was called to the scene of a murder. The victim was a young man who had been stabbed in the back multiple times. Detective Jones examined the crime scene and interviewed witnesses, but he couldn't find any leads. The killer had left no fingerprints or DNA evidence behind. Just as Detective Jones was about to give up, he noticed something strange. There was a small piece of paper on the ground near the victim's body. He picked it up and examined it. It was a receipt from a nearby convenience store. Detective Jones went to the convenience store and showed the receipt to the cashier. The cashier told him that the receipt had been printed about 10 minutes before the murder. Detective Jones checked the security footage from the convenience store. He saw a man matching the description of the killer buying a pack of cigarettes. The man was wearing a black hoodie and sunglasses, so Detective Jones couldn't get a good look at his face. But Detective Jones noticed something else in the security footage. The man was wearing a unique pair of shoes. Detective Jones had never seen shoes like them before. Detective Jones showed the security footage to other police officers, and they were able to identify the man in the video as a known criminal named Michael Brown. Detective Jones obtained a warrant for Michael Brown's arrest. He and a team of police officers raided Michael Brown's apartment, and they found him hiding in the bathroom. Detective Jones arrested Michael Brown and charged him with murder. Michael Brown confessed to the crime, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Detective Jones had solved the case using a single clue, the victim's receipt from the convenience store. He had used his keen eye for detail and his knowledge of criminals to catch the killer in just 10 minutes. The next day, Detective Jones was awarded a medal for his bravery and quick thinking. He was hailed as a hero by his colleagues and the community. But Detective Jones remained humble. He knew that he was just doing his job. He was a police officer, and he was sworn to protect and serve.